empty part. That's just the empty way to make a part.
Inch. Inch. Because we are in the United States. Yeah, my computer's taking its own sweet time. Part of it is because I'm trying to record it for people.
So what should we save this as?
We're going to save it as mold.
Save this, go ahead, save this as mold.
Mold, comma, battery plate. Any minute now it'll be up. Any day now. I'm getting old just watching it. Aging, aging, aging. Rebuilding. Ta-da! Here it is. Okay. Woohoo! And I'm going to save it. And I'm going to call it mold, comma, battery plate. And save it. Okay, that takes me to page 4-74. So the first thing I want to do is I want to bring in the part. And you should be in a part file. If you're in an assembly file, you're already off track. Okay? So make sure you're in a part file. And then you're going to go insert part. So you want to be on the insert menu and select part. And then you want to locate your battery plate and select open. And then you're just going to green check. And you should see your battery plate in your part file. All right, everybody here? Anybody lost? Anybody needing help? We're on page 4-74. Now you'll notice so went to insert part. Now you'll notice that your battery plate's in the browser and there's this little dash with a lesser sign. Do you see that? Greater than sign, sorry, like an arrow. What that means is it's an external link out to the part file. So if you make a change to the part, it'll automatically update in here. Okay? So it's like an XREF or an external reference. All right, we're trying to create a mold, so what we need is some mold tools. If you put your mouse over these tabs and you right-click, notice mold tools is one of the tabs we can add to the ribbon. Do you see that? So you just left-click on mold tools and then you'll add the mold tools ribbon to your ribbon. Do you see that? So was everybody able to get to their mold tools? Is there anybody who was not able to activate the mold tool ribbon? Now when you look at the mold tool ribbon, the way it works is It starts here on this panel. It kind of goes from left to right. So we're kind of going to go through the panel from left to right as we're creating our mold. So the first panel where we're offsetting surface, knitting surface, radiating surface, all this stuff, this is all about editing our part in case there are any kind of damaged faces or holes or things that might create a problem with our plastic part. In this case, our part is pretty good. It's a pretty basic part. So you'd use this more if you have like a complex, like something with a lot of surfacing going on. All right, we don't, so we don't care so much. Now this next section is to help us figure out what we need to do for creating our mold. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at our draft analysis. Okay, so we're going to select our draft analysis tool right here. And it asks us what our direction of pull is going to be. What it means by that is it's asking when we're pulling it out of the mold, how's it going to come out? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this face right here. And I'm going to reverse the direction so it's coming out like that. All right, and notice that it tells me, it gives me an analysis. Green's going to have a positive draft. Yellow says it requires a draft. In other words, I'm missing a draft on those features, and if I don't add a draft, it's going to create problems. Do you see that? So you can actually look at it and you can see that the sides right here don't have a draft, and I need a draft. Imagine like if you were like taking something out of a mold, like a cupcake or Jell-O or something. If it doesn't have an angled side, it doesn't come out of the mold very well, easily. You want to have some kind of taper there. So we need to add drafts there. Any questions about what I just did? Was everybody able to do their analysis to see what it looks like? Okay, and get the colors.
I have a question.
Yes.
My outside edge is also yellow, whereas yours is green.
Okay, so then I would wonder if you created a draft on your extrusion. So you may need to check your extrusion to see if you added a draft to it. Okay? If you need help checking that, Ron can come over and help you. Okay? So I'm gonna green check. All right, so I need to add a draft. So I'm gonna select the draft tool right here. Okay, so I'm gonna select the draft. Now I can say where I want to add a draft. All right, so I'm gonna click on the draft. I'm clicking add. I'm going to select the direction of pull, or the neutral plane, and that's going to be the bottom, like before. Okay? And I'm going to flip the direction so it's going up, right? And then I'm going to click in this area. This box is where I want to add a draft. All right? And what I want to do is I want to add a draft to the two holes. So I'm going to select this cylindrical face and that cylindrical face. And what that does is it'll add a draft to those two holes. And I'm going to click on Auto Paint so you can see it. And then I'm going to hit Apply. Okay, so you'll see that and then I'm going to green check. So you'll see that I've added a draft to those two faces, but I still need a draft on this inside edge. Okay? So Now I could have added a draft like I just did with the draft tool, but in the book she has you add a draft 2 different ways. One going back to the part and modifying the part, and one doing it in here. Question?
I did everything you just did with the 1 degree, and my circles are still yellow. My holes are still yellow.
If you do draft analysis and select your back edge and reverse it, okay, and see how my holes are still yellow? Change it to 1 degree, because we only added a 1 degree draft on the holes. And then they'll turn green. Question, Harvey? Or do you need help? Okay. Okay, so you can see that I have a draft right here, and this draft is the draft that I added to the holes, and it's outside of the part. So if I go back to the part, those holes are not going to have a draft on them. Okay? Everybody see that? I still have those yellow horizontal sides requiring a draft. Everybody see that? So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to open up the battery plate. So I'm just going to right click on the battery plate, okay, and I'm going to right click and say edit in context. Do you see where it says edit in context? Right here on the right click menu. Everybody see that? Okay, what that does is that opens up the battery plate. I still have that link between the battery plate and my mold tool. Okay? You highlight the battery plate in the browser, you right click and you say edit in context. Got it? And that opens up your battery plate. Everybody here? Anybody lost? Okay, so now we want to look at the cut. So where's the cut? Not the terminal hills. We have the boss extrude, terminal well. So right here, I called it terminal well. All right, so that's that cut into my part, and I'm going to go to edit feature. And I'm going to add a draft and change it to 1 degree. So I'm adding a draft angle of 1 degree. And I'm going to say okay.
Just 1 degree?
Just 1 degree.
Okay.
Now I'm going to switch to a front view because I want to show you something. I'm going to switch to wireframe. What you should see with that 1 degree, see how it's drafting out on the outside and it's drafting slightly in on the inside. Okay, I'm going to zoom in so you can kind of see it. It's very, very slight, that 1 degree draft. Okay. So this has got a draft to it, and this has a draft to it. Okay? And then I'm going to save the part. And I'm going to go back to my mold. And notice what happened. What happened to my colors? See that? So it basically says, yeah, you're good.
So you had to save it, you saved it?
I saved my battery plate so that it would update in my mold.
And then the edges are like this? Like the outside edge is going in, this one?
One's going this way, one's going that way. Okay. Everybody here? Anybody needing help?
Yes.
copy of a battery.
I have one that is in the assembly. It is.
So you have a battery. Why it is because during the lecture I showed you how to do a battery save as.
Yeah.
And save as copy. Yeah, so this is really your battery plate. So the file save as. Save as.
That's just
file. Part. Yeah, you're going to go insert part. Battery plate to check. Ron, can you help him check? Everybody else is like ready to go.
I don't know.
Miles. No, Miles. Not that. Okay, so we've done our draft analysis. All right. So now what we want to do is we're on page 4-76, and we need to scale our part up. Okay. We want to make our part a little bit bigger than the actual part, because when you put plastic into the mold, there's a little bit of shrinkage. I mean, you've seen that. It kind of lifts off the sides. You know what I'm talking about? And so if we did the part mold 1-to-1, our part would be a little bit too small. It wouldn't fit properly. So we scale it up just a little bit. The amount you scale it is going to depend on what type of material you specify in terms of plastic. This is where you're talking to the mold maker and talking about different materials, all right? Because he'll have a better idea of how much shrinkage you're going to have. In the book, she uses 1.2. That's a pretty good scale, especially for something like a nylon part, you know, like a plastic bottle cap, something like that, 1.2, plastic bottle, 1.2. That would be a good rule of thumb scale. So 1.2%, so 120%. All right, so our scale tool is right here. You see it on the ribbon? So we're going to say scale, and make sure you're in the mold, right? Not in the battery plate. Okay, so make sure you're in the mold, and you're going to say scale. You're going to scale about the centroid, and you're going to say 1.2. So you're going to make it a little bit bigger, and you're going to go green check. And you can see it go a little bit bigger, and you can see the scale right here. Okay, so you can see that you made it a little bit bigger. Question?
Does that affect the part, the original part?
No, because remember this is the mold for the part, and when we pour the plastic in, when it shrinks down as it cools and cures, it should get down to 1-to-1 size. Okay? So, but like I said, it's going to depend on what plastic materials are used and how it's cured and all that stuff. So it might take a few, circuits for you to locate the correct size. And this is where you really rely a lot on the experience of the mold maker, because he'll know how much you should scale it based on, because he'll have more experience with that than you will, right? Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to create some parting lines. Parting lines are used to help you define where you're going to pull it out of the mold, okay? And we've all seen parting lines on plastic parts, right? If you've looked at plastic parts, a lot of designers will try and disguise the parting lines. You've all seen that. If you've ever played with an action figure, and I know you all have, right? You've all seen the parting lines on the legs and the arms and the torsos, right? Yeah, so Just about any plastic part's going to have parting lines. A lot of designers try to conceal the parting lines and ribs or some kind of cosmetic feature, so it just kind of depends on how you go. All right, we're going to turn on our temporary axes, so y'all remember how to do that. You go View, Temporary Axes. And you see your temporary axes, all the little blue lines, right? And then I'm going to just kind of orbit around here a minute. And I'm going to select parting lines right here. So I turned on draft analysis, turned off draft analysis because I don't need it anymore. I'm done with that. I'm going to select parting lines right here. See that? I'm going to select parting lines. I'm going to select this bottom face again, right? And I'm going to reverse the direction, and I'm going to click on draft analysis right here. And notice it shows me all the edges that are going to be used for my parting lines. Do you see that? Okay, and then you're going to go green check. And you should see parting line 1 in here, and you should see a bold blue line right here. That's the parting line for your cavity, and we can turn off our temporary axes now. Okay? So you can see the parting line. If you highlight parting line, it'll show it, right? I'm going to save it right now. Was everybody able to add a parting line? Does anybody need help? Okay, so now we've got these holes. And remember, a mold is basically a negative. So where my part has a hole, my mold is going to have basically a cylinder to kind of keep material from going into the area where the hole needs to be. So in order to create that cylinder, I have to create something called a shutoff surface. What that shutoff surface does is it ensures that the mold doesn't have, and I'm sure if any of you have ever like done any kind of mold work or like made bundt cakes or cupcakes or something like that, and the stuff seeps out, you know, of the edge, you don't want that, because that will give you, and some of you might have seen plastic parts where it'll have little crinkly things around the edges of the holes that you need to clean up. Have any of you ever seen that? Yes. So that means a bad shut-off surface. Okay, it didn't really have a good bad. Yeah, it was a cheap design. You know, they didn't really seal it nicely. So we want to add some shut-off surfaces to these holes, these two holes right here. Okay, so I'm going to select shut-off surface, and notice it automatically picks those two edges. Do you see that? And then I'm going to green check. And notice what it did. It basically shut those two holes. Cool? All right. So we're getting ready to create. We're almost to the point where we can create the actual mold and cavity. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create what's called the parting surface. In other words, we're going to create like a surface that we're going to use to create our extrude, to create the box for the mold. So our parting surface is right here. All right? And so what we want to do is we want to select parting surface, and notice it automatically selects our parting line, because our parting line is what separates the top and the bottom. And we can say how far away we want it to be. So I'm going to want it to be 1 inch. So I'm going to set the distance 1 inch, and notice it's 1 inch out from my part. So I put 1 inch right there where it says parting surface. Do you see that? So, because I want my mold to be a little bit bigger than my part. Question.
I've got, please select the body for parting line.
Okay.
It didn't give me that.
So you didn't get the parting line? You don't have a parting line?
Yeah, I have the parting line, yes. And then I just clicked on parting surfaces.
Okay, and select right here.
So on all these tools?
No, you select the parting line. Click here. X out. Okay, you already have a parting line starting surface. You want to select parting surface. You didn't select parting surface before. You select parting line. Okay, so select the wrong thing. Anybody else need help?
So does it matter on these tools if you select the face first, or will the tool automatically select for you?
See, it automatically selected, and now you just change this to 1. Okay?
All the parting surfaces.
You're going to see in a minute. Basically, the surface will cut your tool into 2 halves, the top half and the bottom half. So it's basically acting like a plane to cut your mold. So we've got it. You'll understand, it'll be more clear when we've gone through it. So we're going to green check. Okay. So we've created our parting surface. So now what we're going to do is we're ready to create what's called the tooling split. And basically the tooling split is the 2 halves of our mold, the top and the bottom. All right? So we're going to select the tooling split tool right here. And then we're going to select that parting surface. And then I'm going to draw a center rectangle, just like that. And I want it to be 4 by 4. So I'm just going to add a dimension of 4 inches. And I'm just going to set it equal. So it's a square. Okay. And I'm going to exit my sketch, and I'm going to switch to an isometric view so you can see it. And notice what it's doing is it's showing me a preview of my tool. And I can add different heights to the top and the bottom. So if I switch to a front view, you can kind of see I don't necessarily need as much material on the bottom as I have on the top, right? Okay, so I'm going to say that my top is going to be 1 inch and my bottom's going to be 1/2 inch. Okay, you see that? Because remember, this is basically going to be a piece of aluminum that somebody's going to have to machine out. And that aluminum can be kind of expensive, so you don't want to use too much more material than you need just to create the mold. Then you're going to green check. And now it looks like all you've got is a box. All right? I'm going to turn off the visibility of my parting surface because I don't really need that. That parting surface was just so I would have a top and a bottom.
How did you do it? Did you extrude it or something?
I used the tooling split. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to move the tooling split. Now if you look right here, I have under my solid bodies, I have tooling split 1 and tooling split 2. One's the top of my mold, one's the bottom of my mold. Alright? I'm going to go to Insert, Features, Move, Copy. So I go Insert, Features, Move, Copy, and I want to highlight, I'm going to highlight my tooling split 2, and I'm going to go Insert, Features, Move, Copy, and it brings up this little gizmo. And I'm going to just put my mouse over this top axis, and I'm just going to move it up so that it's out of the way. And then I'm going to green check. Alright, you can see the part that's inside of it. Look at my mold.
What do we do if we didn't get the ball thing?
If you didn't get the ball thing, okay, I'm gonna copy the, I'm gonna move the bottom one. If you go Insert, Features, Move, Copy, and you don't see this ball, check to see if there's a button down here that says Translate.
Yeah.
Okay, click on that. And that should bring up the gizmo. And then move it down. And now you should see how it's got like a little, okay? And so you've got your tool. Now if you want to save that, you just right click and you say Insert into New Part. And now I've got a new part. That just has the mold cavity.
Wait, sorry, so you pulled that thing up, you click green check.
Okay, see my mold cavity? So if I wanted to save that, just the top part or just the bottom part, into a new file, I right click on it and I go Insert into New Part. See that? And so now I've created the top of my mold, the bottom of my mold. I can send that, the whole assembly out so that the mold maker can look at it. Cool?
Yes.
Right? So once you design your part, it's fairly easy to create a mold for the part. But did you see the step-by-step progression? And this is very important, that you can see that you move from left to right along your ribbon to get to the end product, okay? And that is the end of tonight's lecture. Nothing you did tonight needs to be handed in.